Hello, happy folks. I hope you guys are having just an absolutely incredibly awesome day today, one of your favorite. Alright, so today's a short story I read while heading to church and back from it. It's a short story called Double Cosmos. It's by Clark Ashton Smith. I read it for the first time on eldritchdark.com, which I will link you to below, and that sort of thing. So basically what's happening in this short story, and again, no spoilers, and that sort of thing, but Clark Ashton Smith in his teens and that sort of thing, and heavy on in the pulp-era, he was heavily influential, and that sort of thing. This was published in 1989 in a collection of his stuffs and such. So but it was in his writings index. It was published very late in his life, but he was definitely somebody who again was published in the early eras. So the idea, he was published early on. He was considered one of the last great poets in San Francisco, and that sort of thing, and was something that was definitely a stronger sort of thing there too, and a beloved poet, and that sort of thing, and everybody loved his stuff lots. So basically what's happening in this short story, no spoilers, but basically we have our main character has come across, is a scientist, and he in the pulp-era, and he has come across a drug because he believes that our senses are sort of blinding us to the truth of reality. It's sort of similar, I guess, to the Great God Pan, that are sort of black and also. But basically the idea here is that he comes up with a drug that he's going to take under various testings and that sort of a thing in order to see what the truth of reality actually is. Makes sense? Which is a very sort of, like I said, Arthur Mockie and Greek God Pan sort of style. Sort of thing. And now, starting after that, we're going to have his journey into that exploration, into Double Cosmos. So basically, the idea here is you'll start to have that journey along with it. Now, I love Clark Ashton Smith. He was a peer, one of the great three ones, with H.P. Lovecraft and with Robert E. Howard created the Conan and the Barbarian and really popularized sword and sorcery, so he's still popular today and beloved today and read today. H.P. Lovecraft popularized, he didn't create it, but he popularized the cosmic horror, and then he created things like the Call of Cthulhu and the Cthulhu Mythos and that sort of thing. He's heavily remembered and fondly for those two reasons. Clark Ashton Smith also wrote just as strongly as them more stuff. His writing style is very different and unique. That sort of thing. He doesn't tend to use the same words over and over again. He read a dictionary when he was a kid and remembered most of the words. Right? So he's a very different, slower sort of style. Much more prosy poem too. And that sort of thing. I would consider him the best writer of those three. And he typically would write fantasies like the ones that were heavily influential in Dungeons and Dragons early on, like Castle Amber with his Averwall stories, or the Seven Geshes that they wrote too. My favorite short story is. So basically, he is here in the horror genres. He is trying on the Arthur Mocking great 10 out of 10 Great God Pan. From a different angle. Now he's doing it. He's not just being surprised by it and that sort of thing. And as we find out what's happening, I love the ending. And that sort of a thing, and what's actually happening, and what we find out, and that sort of thing. But I would say that he's not as strong an attempt as I think that Arthur Mocking or other ones that I read have been. So he liked it well. It doesn't abuse its length. It's about half an hour, and that sort of thing. But I would say it's more of like an 8 out of 10. It's a nice attempt, but I do like what he's doing with it, but I just am more limited by his intentions. I remember when I recently knocked out a short story by the guy who wrote that was clearly an homage to Ambrose Bierce's Inhabited, an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge, which is another classic in that early era, this era, and it was a 10 out of 10. It was done by the guy who did the yellow sign and stuff like that, and I thought it wasn't just nearly as good, right? And I think that's the same thing, but he's a better writer. So I think it comes out as an 8 out of 10 rather than a 10 out of 10. Alrighty, so there you are, spoilers. Alright, but have you read Double Cosmoses? And if so, sorry, Double Cosmos rather. Again, I'll link it to you in the comments below. So let me know what your thoughts are and whether or not. Remember, I'm not a trained writer. I didn't go to college and get an English major or critique or anything like that. I'm just a fan, right? So your opinion is going to be just as valid, right, as mine is. So let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to discuss with this furthermore in the comments below, whatever about the Double Cosmoses. Alrighty, and so there you are. I try to do 3 of these reviews of these older things in the 3 genres that we cover in fantasy, science fiction, and horror, either novels or in this one, in this case, a short story, or some poems too, or prose poems by Clark Ashton Smith too, or I've done 1 or 2 by Lovecraft too, or even novellas and that sort of thing too. Also, I do 4 other reviews a week too of video games that are older, serial Saturdays for that older storytelling genre. So I might have forgotten about top 10s on Friday, and then on Monday I do reviews of short stories, video games. I'm sorry, on that day I do older RPGs like Dungeons & Dragons or Battletech war games and that sort of thing in their older era stuff. So if you like those 7 videos, then why not do all the YouTube stuff and sit down and have a great seat? I think you'll enjoy it. Hit the subscribe button, the like button, the share with your friends. Hit the bell icon to be notified of videos. So just watch and share. Those are the key ways to grow this channel. Alrighty. And so there you are. As a reminder, all those, as you can tell from all those 7 things, each week, this is definitely something that cares about the older stuff, right? And heavily influential of stuff. It's also where the title of this channel comes from too, in addition to it just being my passion, right? The title is "The Worst Thing About New Books" is a quote by a French philosopher named Jacques Choupert, who said that the worst thing about them was that they kept us from reading the old ones, right? And this definitely some older stuff we might have forgotten about, right? Yeah. Alrighty, so there you are, and thanks again. I want to thank you so much, for just taking some time out of your day and investing it, right, and just watching my video, because we all have so many things, right, that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions, right. So the fact that you spent this time with me, that's incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it so very, very much. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.